No, you said you would. But this morning, I mean. So in any event, but tonight actually is basically Chazar. Almost everything we're going to learn tonight is appeared already in Tainus. We had it already. Yeah, so it's really just Chazar. We're on Daf Hayim Rav. Hayim Rav, really, literally, almost the entire Gemara. 7 lines. I've never seen anything like this. It's exactly identical with Gemaras and Tainus.
Really?
Yeah, it's stunningly remarkable. You're right. I've never seen anything this identical. Okay, we're up to the not quite. I mean, not 100%, but 95%. We're up to the fourth line down. Be'elu amru magdim v'lo ma'akrin. Okay, Be'elu amru magdim v'lo ma'akrin. These, in the following areas, they said, make things a day earlier, not a day later. Kriyas Megillah, make earlier. Trumas Eshkolim, when you have to give Shkolim to the Beis HaMikdash, if that comes out in Rosh Chodesh Adar, when the time for Shkolim comes, well, actually, Trumas Eshkolim is from Rosh Chodesh Nisan. You announce it in Rosh Chodesh Adar. If that comes out on Shabbos, bring it a day earlier. So Magdim Lo Makrin. Sudas Rosh Chodesh, on the other end of Rosh Chodesh, comes out on Shabbos, and you can't make the Suda of Rosh Chodesh on Shabbos. The reason why they used to make the Sudas Rosh Chodesh is really not so much for Simcha, although there might be some Indian of Simcha and Rosh Chodesh, but it's primarily actually in order to publicize that it's Rosh Chodesh. So if you just made it on Shabbos, there would be no publicity, right? So therefore you make it a day later on Sunday, so everybody should know Rosh Chodesh has occurred. Okay, so it's more of a publicity thing. So
the grandchildren publicize it because everyone's in shul davening.
Besides that, there's another reason to make a suda besides the public announcement. So the suda you make separate because otherwise people just think it's a Shabbos Kiddush. Sudas Purim, the Suda Purim. Also, Ma'achim Lo Makdim, as I told you yesterday, when they make Purim nowadays Yerushalmi over Shabbos, so the suda is actually on Sunday. Okay, so it's a day later as opposed to Kriyas Megillah, which is made on Friday, a day earlier. Rabbi Zir boy kum Rabbi Avo. V'yasu on Shabbos. Why don't you make the Suda of Purim on Shabbos? So Amar Lei, so he said, no, last some very interesting drosha. Again, dashing the Megillah as if it's Chumash. Right, something which you didn't have in the Bavli, don't have in the Bavli. Last some yimei mishteh v'simcha, to make them days of revelry, of drinking and joy. Days which we make into the days of Simcha, right? We make them. Yotzah as opposed to Shabbos, where the Simcha is already decreed by heaven. Right, so therefore that would not be in our hands to do it. It's interesting. The Yerushalmi here seems to hold that, and I know this is Yerushalmi, but I don't remember if we learned the Masechta Shabbos as well. But there's din of Simcha on Shabbos. The Bavli never brings out a din of Simcha on Shabbos, only Oneg Shabbos. But here you see that there's a Simcha on Shabbos, so therefore you push up the Simcha Purim, so it's like Ema Arvin Simcha b'Simcha, not to mix the two Simchas together. Magevis Purim. When you collect money for Purim, Purim, it must be used for Purim purposes, not for any other charity. However, the recipient also cannot change it. For example, the person, the poor person should not use it, to get a lace for a shoe. In other words, it's designated for Purim purposes. It means for eating on Purim. One is not meticulous in the mitzvah of Purim. In other words, anybody who sticks out his hand, very famous, Yerushalmi, anybody who sticks out his hand, lito, to take charity on Purim, no sin law we give to him, and the Korban says a monumental chiddush, although I don't know where he got it from. He says even a goy, whenever somebody sticks out his hand on Purim, you have to give him money regardless of who he is. Okay? And the Sfarim all right. It's not just in money, but also ruchnius. Anybody who sticks out his hand on Purim gets ruchnius from a Kodesh Baruch Hu. Why can't we drink, right? Purim. So now the more it goes back and it says, wait a minute. So he said you can't change Purim money. Chashar most mishani. We understand if money is earmarked for a specific purpose, when you change its purpose. Says Mar, I'll tell you. All types of money given to tzedakah, before it's given to the treasurers, you're allowed to change their purpose. Once they're given to the treasurers, you're no longer allowed to change its purpose. The money collected for Purim, even before it's given to a treasurer, it's already fixed in its purpose and cannot be changed. But the time of the Kohanim, that's pushed off. In other words, when the Kohanim brought the wood to the Beis HaMikdash several times a year, then that's pushed off if it comes on Shabbos. What is this time when the Kohanim and the nation brings the wood to the Beis HaMikdash? Why is it enumerated in the times in Megillah's Tainus, which were special days? When Am Yisrael came from the exile. They did not find any wood in the offices, nor to make korbanos. And these families cited in Megillah's Tainus stood up, and they volunteered wood on their own. When they get in the community to use in the Beis HaMikdash. And they sacrificed the deeds of Korban Tzibor. At that point, the prophets among the Jews made a condition with the rest of the Jewish nation. Even if the lishka is full of wood anyway, but these families rise up and volunteer wood regardless. The carbon only comes from the wood which they volunteer. Rabbi Yachar said, Rabbi Yossi, this is going to be going like Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi said, a person who wants to volunteer to safeguard the harvested grain for the carbon oimer as a shomer china, right, without being paid, can volunteer on his own, even though he's giving of his time to a carbon tzibur, right? So it comes out that there's some element of the carbon tzibur being done by a private individual. Nevertheless, Rabbi Yossi says it's okay. Rabbi don't argue with him, right? Rabbi Yossi said no. Even though they argue there, in our case, Divrei Kolhi. In our case, even Rabban argue, Rabbi Yossi can agree that in our case, you can take the wood from any private donor. It doesn't have to be purchased with Beis HaMikdash funds. Why? Mapli, where they have machlokas, where one accepts private donations, everything has to be purchased with public funds, the gufo shel korban, in the body of the korban itself, such as the animals for the korbanos. But the wood, which is only a hechsher for the korban, it's only preparatory to the korban, everybody agrees, shumishtane korban yochim be korban tzibur, that one can take for that which an individual brings. Literally, it says korban yochim means that which an individual brings, and make it and use it for the community as well. Tani, we learned in this vein, ha'isha sha'osta kisonis levana, a woman who made a white garment for a kohen, right, a white shirt, tzrichulim solidzi, which has given over to the community, because everything in the basement is to come from the community. Rabbi Yachar said, Rabbi Yossi, there's like Rabbi Yossi. The Rabbi Yossi Amar, Avarot Semisayim Shamachina, Rabbi Yossi just said, can learn that we can utilize the service of the individual even though he's volunteering them. Says more again, Rabbi Yossi said, Divrei Kolhi. Everybody agrees with Rabbi Yossi. Mapli, where's the machlokus, whether it's allowed to come from private funds, it must come from public funds. Beguva shel korban, in the body of the korban. Avo b'machshirei korban, but that which prepares the korban, such as the big dekuna, kolama moide, everybody can see shumishtane korban yochim korban tzibur. You can use that which comes from an individual, even for the community. Says the Gemara, a little bit of a typo here, Masnisa, not pliga abba Masnisa Messiah Rabbi Yossi. There's a brisa, which is in Megillah's Tainus, which is proof for Rabbi Yossi. How so? It says in Megillah's Tainus, those days which were simcha for those who brought wood to the Beis HaMikdash, they remain a simcha b'shas ha-korban, shlo b'shas ha-korban. Whether there is now a korban, there is not a korban. Rabbi Yossi says they only apply when there is a korban. Okay, regardless of whether they do or do not apply when there's a korban, Lamaisa, it says here that even Rabban who argue on Rabbi Yossi, hold that it is a simcha, right? The question is whether it applies even when there's no Beit Hamikdash, or when there's a Beit Hamikdash, but they hold there is a simcha, right? They agree there's a simcha. Not only that, they're more machmen the simcha, so to speak, right? Because they say that even shelo b'shas korban, right? Even when there is no korban anymore, they still have a simcha for the time when they would bring wood. So here we see that they allow people to bring wood to the Beis Hamikdash and give it. It must be that they agree with Rabbi Yosef that even though for the korban itself we do not allow outside volunteer work, for the ancillary activities around the korban we do allow it. Okay? Vod minado, we have another proof from here. The Tani, the second line from the bottom, Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Tzadok, and he used to be Bnei Sana ben Binyamin. I was from the children of Sana ben Binyamin, one of the Mishmois, L'chal Tisha B'Av Liyas B'Shabbos. One of the groups who would bring wood to the Beis Hamikdash. L'chal Tisha B'Av Liyas B'Shabbos, and Tisha B'Av came around Shabbos one year. The Dachino some Motzoi Shabbos, Tisha B'Av was of course pushed out to Motzoi Shabbos. But we, since that was already the 10th of Av, which is our Yontif, to bring the wood to Beis Hamikdash, we would fast. We would not complete the fast. We only fast a half a day. So we see that this is a compelling logic, even Kohen Rabbanan, to say that the Yom Eitzim is a Yontif, and it must be because we accept wood from private individuals. Okay? With Tisha B'Av. On Tisha B'Av, we push it off to the 10th day, right? Tisha B'Av comes on Shabbos, right? We know we still do that in our very day and age. Rabbi Yerushalmi Megillah said, why do we push it off? Because the truth is the 10th day is also suitable to fast. Bedina ushayu misanim basiri. Really, we should fast on 10th day. Shibon Israel, on which the Beis Hamikdash burned. Why do we fast on the 9th day? Because that was the beginning of it being burnt. But it burned throughout the 10th day, but we fast the beginning. Betani Kain, and we also learn the Brisa, and we go Tainis. And the 7th day they entered the Beis Hamikdash. B'Shmini and Mekagribo, the 8th day they were looting it. B'Chi, and the 9th day Tzizba they ignited fire. B'Asir Nisraf, and it burned through the 10th day. Rav Shimon Levi Tzayim Chiva Asir. Rav Shimon Levi would fast both days. Rabbi Levi Tzayim Chiva Asir. He'd fast both days. Chiva Leo Asir. Not the entire 10th day, but the 9th day and the eve of the 10th day. Rabbi Bar Zav, the Sheikhina said, Bikish Rabbi Lako Tisha B'Av. Rabbi wanted to get rid of Tisha B'Av. They didn't concede the point for him. Rabbi Elazar said, you have mistaken memory of this. I was with you when this episode occurred. But Lo Yitzhak was not stated like this. Ella rather, Bikesh Rabbi Lakor Tishbok Shechayos b'Shabbos. When Tishbok came on Shabbos, he didn't want to push off the sun. They wanted to uproot it altogether those years. Of Eloi Nicholon, that they did not permit him to do. What was Rebbe's logic? Amr said, let it be pushed off altogether this year. Amr Los, and they said to Rebbe, Yidacheh, but Lamachar. It's pushed up until tomorrow, not for the entire duration of the year. The Gazale, and they omitted, Gaza means you're to omit, the following case, which is similar. Wouldn't you tell me, let's over there, Yocham broke Omer, Al Shneim Omer, Yocham broke it says that a woman can demand a divorce because it says about both the man and the woman, it says, Vayavorech Osam Elokim, Hashem blessed them, Vayomlam Elokim Puravu, Hashem said, be fruitful and multiply. So if the wife is not having any kids, she can demand a divorce on the basis of mitzvah to do Puravu. Elazar Rishem Alchina said, how Lochak Rabbi Yochanan broke, so on this Rabbi Elazar said, Lochak Rabbi Yochanan broke a disrespect. Who said that there is Puravu in both. So Gary Bar Barzavta was with him. He said, I was with you. It's not what it was said. Ella rather, not because of Puravu do we compel a divorce and allow her to get divorced, but rather because say if she wants to get remarried, Adini Mo, she has the she has legitimacy in her validity. In her taina, although it's not described here why, but the Gemara says elsewhere, because she says, I need somebody to support me in my old age. So I have no kids, nobody's going to support me in my old age. I don't have nursing home insurance. So therefore, I need she can respond, she can demand out of a marriage if she's not going to have any kids, on the basis not of puravu, she doesn't have puravu, on the basis of her necessity to have a kid, right? So, Amar Vikara Leon, Vikara Leon, no, it says Amar Vikara Leon, he got up and said, Rabbi Chanina said, Rabbi Lezer B'Shem Rabbi Chanina, who said that whatever these statements were originally, the imprecise ways. So it's good that he had along with him Rabbi Barbazav to correct him to make the statements correctly. Okay? Now here's a very interesting Gemara. Really, this is not we just one was repeated from Tainus, but now comes something which is not repeated. Chagiga. This is not in the Bavli at all. I see it's elsewhere in the Yerushalmi. It's not in the Bavli. One pasuk says, the holiday of the harvest, when the first coming year fruit is. Which holiday is the holiday of the first coming year fruit? Shavuos, right? So it says there, it's a holiday of harvesting. Wait a minute. Can you harvest on Shavuos?
Yeah. What do you mean, kid?
Can you harvest on Shavuos?
On Shavuos, no.
Why?
It's a holiday.
It's holiday. Oh, saying good. Says Yerushalmi. How can it say then Chag HaKotzir, which means it's you're making a holiday when you're harvesting, right? The holiday of the harvest when you bring your bikurim, your first fruits. Because and the other pasuk says, it sounds like you're doing your kotzir or harvest on Shavuos, but you're not allowed to, right?
So Sukkot is called Chag HaOsif. You don't gather it on Sukkot. You don't gather it on Sukkot. You gather it before Sukkot and bring it to the base of Mikdash on Sukkot. So the same thing with the bikurim.
That's what you say.
Yeah.
It's good thing you didn't write Yerushalmi. Says the Gemara, still thinking Bavli like. Says the Gemara, what do we do with these two psukim? So he says, very good. He says, when the first day Yontif comes on a weekday, you can make your korban chagiga, and at the same time rest, not a full rest of Shabbos, but the rest of Yontif, right? When the Yontif comes on Shabbos, though, let's say Shavuos for our purposes, but the same thing with first day Sukkot. So Yontif comes Shabbos, you're not allowed to make the chagiga that day, because chagiga is not the Shabbos. So when you make the chagiga, when Yontif comes out on Shabbos, Shavuos comes on Shabbos, L'maisa never does anymore. Mm-hmm. But in the good old days when it could happen. So when would you make a korban chagiga? Next day, but the next day is?
Sunday.
Next day is? So weekday. Eretz Yisrael, right?
Yeah, right.
So it's a weekday, right? But so that's when it's Chag HaKotzir, the holiday on the harvest day, because Chag refers to the Korban Chagiga.
Right.
That's making a holiday on the harvest day. That's what you do the second pasuk.
Oh.
Okay? Not bad, right? You don't like it, huh? So that's Yerushalmi thought. So again. If it comes on a weekday, first one line. When it comes on Shabbos, the next day, which is a weekday, you do chagiga and you do k'tir as well. Rabbi Yossi Bar Rabun said a fascinating thing, really fascinating. This goes back to what you said, although it's more fascinating in Shavuos. So Pnei Moshe says story about Sukkot, but the Korban says story about Shavuos. Even though you're harvesting on that day, or gathering by Sukkot, but it has to be for the purpose of the dough of the bread you're going to eat today. Because you're not allowed to do malacha for any other purpose on Chol HaMoed, right? Except for what you're going to eat today. But more than that, by Shavuos, there's halachic knowledge to do work on the day you're bringing korban. A rarely cited halacha.
Oh, really?
Now you're allowed to do malacha like Chol HaMoed, but not malacha like Shabbos You're allowed to do malacha like Chol Moed. It's not like Shabbos or Yom Tov, but you're still allowed to do malacha. So that's what it says here. Whatever the malacha allowed to do is like malacha for your dough. Like that which we learned. Lahain inish to have that. Therefore, lahain means to such a person. Lahain inish such a person. You have only to be kurim, who has upon him to bring the bread or the bikurim to the Beis Hamikdash. Homer Re'olai. For example, a person who says, here's my wood for the Mizbeach and my chips of wood for the Ma'aracha. He's not allowed to fast, he's not allowed to make a hesped, nor is he allowed to work on that day when he brings his korban, even his korban eats him, even the wood for use in the Beis HaMikdash. Okay? Uvahakel. Hakel is pushed off for a day. If the Hakel comes on Shabbos, push off to Sunday. Right? Rabbi said, Omar, why? I mean, because they blow shofar at Hakel. Rabbi Yitzchak, Rabbi Chia, Omar, Bivnei HaBima, because they construct the platform. They know how to construct platforms on Shabbos. For the king to sit. New fact, the Gemara of Yasus so make the platform before Shabbos begins. Shloid Chokas Hazor, take up too much room in the Hazor for too much time, so we don't want to do that. That's one reason given. No, the other reason is even cuter. Or I'm not saying Al Shem Shlotita L'cha Shero Kolet, you're not allowed to have any wood in the Beis HaMikdash planted because it's like an Ashera tree. There was no wood in the Beis HaMikdash. There is going to be wood no matter what, because they're going to leave it there, right? If they're going to build it on Shabbos, so they're going to build it even though they're not going to build it on Shabbos, it's going to be there for for whatever time the Hakel is taking place, right? So says the Gemara, that's not a problem. Why? Because, well, actually, it's not the Gemara. The Korban Eidah says it's not a problem because it's only a problem if it looks semi-permanent there. It only looks semi-permanent if you built it Friday night or Friday afternoon, and then it looks like it's going to stay there for a long time, for 2 days. That's also because of Asherah. If you just build it up in the afternoon, take it down in the afternoon for the purpose of the speech, that's okay. Okay? Says the Gemara, Masdisa de Rabbi Meir. Now here it goes back to Masechta Tainis, and this really has nothing to do with our Masechta except later on. Masdisa Rabbi Meir. The Mishnah in Tainis is going to cry Meir. Rabbi Meir said, Dilol Mispat. It says in Megillah's Tainis certain days you're not allowed to make a hesped, right? And those days also lisanos, you're also not allowed to fast. However, there's certain days which the low lisanos now allowed to fast, but they're mutter behesped. You're allowed to do hesped. In other words, there's some days when you're not allowed, days that you're not allowed to fast, you're also not allowed to be maspid, right? No, the opposite. Days you're not allowed to maybe maspid, you have to actually close down, right? Days you're not allowed to be maspid, you're not allowed to fast at all, right? There are days you're not allowed to fast, but on those days you're allowed to deliver a hesped. Okay? So it says more of a D low, which says in Megillah's Tainis that not stam kedi without any specific following continuation sentence. Low lisan, it means you don't have to fast in those days. Rabbi Yehuda said that's already made. Rabbi Yehuda said there actually should be there's a word missing, a very important word called vitani or tani. Rabbi Yehuda was an Amora. He's quoting a brisa. All right, Elin Yomayit Lo Lisanabon. These are days that you shouldn't fast. And some of them, the shouldn't even give a eulogy on them, which is obviously makes them holier. It says bahon, right? It says lo l'sara bahon in them, bahon in them, right? So why did it show you twice? And Mulamid Shalayla Mutar teaches us that the night is permissible, right? What does it mean the night is permissible? I forgot. To do a hesped, right? Thank you. Vayom Osir, and the day is Osir. Okay?
It's hesped at a Levaya, and the
right.
Levaya is at night.
Right. In Eretz Yisrael, they have it all the time, right? So at night you're allowed to do a little breastplate, and during the days also. Kada, like that, the Tani, we learned over there in Masechta Tanis, Lahain Inish, the Heve Olay. Now, this is actually teaching us, how do we know that the night before, you're actually, So now the Gemara is going on to explain the opinion not brought down in our Mishnah, to prevent Mishnah Tainis, that in fact not Shingalil. Shingalil says the night before the night before a Yom Tif, one of the Megillah, Tainis Yom Tovim, you're allowed to be maspid at night, right? That's Rosh Hashanah Shita. The day is distinct from the night. Now we're going to bring those proofs to show that the night and day are the same. In other words, whatever you can't do during the day, you're restricted from doing it at night. Kador Tani, like we learned, Lehain Inish Tapal Avamarav, the individual, Tiavi Loy Asar Bitzlu. He, a person who wants to make himself, person wants to fast, he has to make upon himself a prohibition, a nether in his davening. And Rabbi Yisrael Shud Tzorach Las Kirmi Ba'erev. He has to mention from the evening before, right? Why from the evening before? Why can he mention from that night? The night before time. So I say mention from the mincha from the day before time. So I said Makabel previously. Because the night and day says, why? The same unit. So that's why you can't be Makabel Tainis tonight. Even though on the night of a Tainis you can still eat, like Shiva Sar B'Tammuz. You can't be Makabel Tainis. It's too late. You have to be Makabel the next day. Why? Because, says Yerushalmi, in a Tainis, the night and day are the same. So the Yerushalmi extrapolates from that to Yom Tovim, and says in the Yotif also, the night and day are the same. Whatever you can't do during the day, you can't do during the night as well. Okay? So says the Gemara, another proof. Vasaki Damar Bizer B'Shem Rav Chuna Omro Kilel Shabbos Ukiyomo. He holds a similar thing. Rabbi Zir named Rav Chuna said, at the night of a time you also say Anenu. We don't pass Anenu, of course, but he says you say Anenu at night as well. Like Lil Shabbos, we mentioned Shabbos as well, just like Shabbos in the morning. So he says the night of the time is also night of the time you also can say Anenu. Now you're not actually fasting yet, but you can still say Anenu because it's all one day. And so to extend by the positive side, by a Yontif also becomes one day. Okay, Masnisa Obi Aleph Rabbi Yossi Obi Beis Meir. Now the Mishnah there, the Mishnah there in Tainus, which tells us you don't have fast on Yud Yud Beis Yud Gimel Yud Dalet Tezvav, is either going the Chiddush is either on Yud Aleph like Rabbi Yossi, because on Yud Dalet Yud Gimel it's not a Chiddush, because Rabbi Yossi holds the day before the day before Yontif, you don't say Tachnun or fast either, right? Tachnun is a separate issue, but you don't fast, right? So if you see them saying, you see them fasting, cases like this, look. Yudal is Purim, and Tezvav is Purim. What's your Gimel? No. No. That's true, but we'll come back to that. But it's also Yom Nikanor. It's a minor holiday in Megillah's Tainus. So, according to Rabbi Yossi, Yud Beis you're not going to fast anyway, because it's his day before Yom Nikanor. So, what's the Chiddush in the sequence of events that by Purim you don't fast? Only one day that you're out if you don't fast. Because Yud Dalet Tesol you don't fast, Yud Gimel you don't fast either, and Yud Beis you don't fast because it's precedes. So, therefore, the only day you can possibly fast is Yud Aleph, right? According to Meir, days in Megillah's Tainus are not strong enough to prevent saying Tachnun. I keep saying Tachnun, but to prevent fasting the day before, right? So therefore, he holds that Yud Beis is also Chiddush, even though Yud Gimel is a Yontif, but it's a Chiddush to say that Yontif, this case, only because the Yontif Yom Nikanor we would still be allowed to fast, according to Meir, on Yud Beis. So that's why you have to tell us that since it's a Purim day, Yud Beis Yud Gimel Yud Dalet Tesvav, so therefore you cannot fast on Yud Beis as well. Okay, is that clear? You know what, I'm going to turn on the fan for a second. Can I ask you, can you hit the switch on the fan, please? Thanks. So in any event, so he says like this again. Obiav, Mastis Obiav, it's either Chiddush not to fast on Yudav, Rabbi Yossi. That's the only day which is the Chiddush going in, because Yud Gimel you can't fast, because it's Yom Nikanor, and Yud Beis either, because the day before Yom Nikanor. Obi Yud Beis, Kramer, according to Meir, you can fast the day before. So Yud Gimel you cannot fast, but Yud Beis you could fast. That's when you Chiddush, because of Purim you can't fast. The Kasha al de Rabbi, it's a mistake, Kasha al de Rabbi Yossi. Typical Rabbi Yossi, located to the side that we learn, B'tchein asar be Yom Tiroin. The 12 days on to also Yom Tif. So Yom Tirion. They did something to a guy named Tirion on that day. From Rabbi Yaakov, so if that's the case, it's not a Chiddush not to fast in any of those days. You don't fast because it's Purim. That's Vav either because it's Purim. You don't fast because of Yom Nikanor. You'd base no fast because of Yom Tirion. You'd have, you're not going to fast because it's the day before Yom Tirion. So therefore, what's the Chiddush in our Mishnah? You'd have, you'd base your Gimel, you'd have, you'd base your Gimel, you don't fast. Says more, Rabbi Yaakov Barach, I'll tell you. Batal Yom Tirion. Yom Tirion is cancelled. Why? Yom Shenerag Linus Upapus. It's saying which Linus and Papus, two great tzaddikim, were killed, two people who were Moisa Nefesh, that they should be killed instead of the rest of Am Yisrael for the rest of the city for some iniquity which was perpetrated. So therefore, it's no longer a day of Simcha. Okay. Once we're on the topic, we class the Sarbeh, the 30 days Yom Nikanor. Ma Yom Nikanor. What's the story of Yom Nikanor? Shilto Mishal Machos Yovan Hayorev Alexandria. A certain governor or general from the Greeks was passing through Alexandria. He blasphemed and cursed and made and said sharp things. Varme said, when they came back, go back in peace from Alexandria, at Toitz Amidah was going to knock down this base on Mikdash. When the Chashmonaim came out, he killed the soldiers of this Nicanor. Ad Shagia should be like Kronin Shalom until he reached his own carriage. If he came and Shagia Kronin Shalom once he reached the carriage of Nicanor, Katas Yodav, he cut off his hand, V'chatel Soshan chopped off his head, V'tachvam Be'etzim, put them on a twig, V'kasim Milamata, and he wrote on the twig on the bottom, HaPesha Diber B'Oshma, the mouth which spoke in guilt, V'yavai Yachem Poshta V'gaiva, and the hand which was extended in holiness, V'talim B'kutas, and he hung them on a limb, neged Yerushalayim, opposite Yerushalayim. So that's Yom Nikanor. Now, daited Rabbi Yossi. It says Meir, but it's supposed to be Yossi. Daited Rabbi Yossi, Nicha. Ba lo Solofonov. I understand. It makes sense. You're coming to Aser the day before. What does it mean? You have to write Yud Gimel in order to Aser Yud Beis in Tainus, right? Because Yud Gimel teaches us, Yom Nikanor teaches Yud Beis also in Tainus. Al Daited Rabbi Meir, again, it's the type which we have Daited Rabbi Meir, Ma Bar Leser, what's he going to Aser? Lefonov Leise. He says, Yud Gimel, actually there should be an extra word here, Lo Lefonov Leise. Why tell me what Yom Nikanor is? Yom Nikanor is not strong enough to Aser the day before Yud Beis in Tainus, right? According to Meir. It was still fast the day before. What about Yud Gimel itself? Atzmo Aser Livnei Yudalit. Yud Gimel you can't fast even according to Meir because it precedes Yudalit. Okay? It's kind of interesting. We fast, of course, in Yud Gimel nowadays. But then they wouldn't fast Yud Gimel because it's the day before Yudalit. So according to Meir, why do we need to know what Yom Nikanor is? Yom Nikanor itself is we wouldn't fast anyway because it's the day before Purim, right?
You need to know to learn out your Yud Beis, but you don't fast on Yud.
No, but Kohen may do fast on Yud Beis. He only holds Yud Daled is different because Yud Your Gimel is different than that. It precedes Yudal because Yudal is more chosh v'day. Purim is more chosh v'day. Because Purim is a day now which you can't make a tainus, you can't make a hesped. So the As is day before in tainus. But Yom Nikon is not a day which is also in hesped. It's only a day which is also in tainus. So the day before you can make a tainus Kohen Meir. So when you say, I understand according to Rabbi Yossi, you need to know about Yom Nikanor since it's not allowed to fast. Then you're also not allowed to fast the day before in your base, even when it's no longer Yom Turainus. But according to Rabbi Meir, you're not allowed to fast at Yom anyway because it's the day before Purim, which is a double day, and that there's no Espentinus nor Espen. So anyway, you're not allowed to fast on Yom Nikanor. And anyway, you're allowed to fast on Yom Turainus, right? Because it's the day before Yom Nikanor, which is not a strong holiday. So why bother mentioning Yom Nikanor at all? So says the Gemara, no, Lo Diachosh Aser B'Hesped. Takatia tells you that this is Taka, the Yom Nikanor itself is Aser and Hesped. Taka is Aser and Hesped. You can't make a Tainus nor a Hesped. Were it just to be Erev Purim, it would be also in Tainus, but not in Hesped. It's also in Tainus and Hesped. Even going to Meir, right? Because of Yom Nikanor. Says the Gemara, V'afilu ad Rabbi Yossi. So again, it says Meir, but it's a mistake. Afilu Rabbi Yossi leisi makshaya. Even Rabbi Yossi isn't it difficult? Lokin tani b'treino sarbo Yom Tirion. Why should tell me about Yom Nikanor in order to answer the day before in Tainus? Anyway, we know it's just because of Tirion. Says more, no. Rabbi Yaakov ben Achad batel Yom Shenibatel. That Yom Tirion doesn't help us. Yom Shenera Glu Linus Papas, the lines of Papas were killed. So therefore, the only way we know not to fast on Yud Beis is only because of the fact that Yom Nikanor comes the day after. Okay, Yudal v'Tezvav, continuing along these lines, Yudal v'Tezvav, Puraya, it's Purim. Dilo Misbed, not allowed to make a Hesped. B'Shitza are on the 16th day, now we're going in the other direction. The 16th day of Adar, Beishon Lemivna Shor Yerushalmi, it's a Yom Tov, because they began building the wall of Yerushalayim. So therefore, Dilo and Misbed, you don't make a Hesped that day. I'll die to the Rabbi Meir. According to Rabbi Meir holds there's no Kiddush on the day after Yom Tov. Nicha, it's good. But Losar, it should be Atzmo. It comes to tell us, not Lofan, it should be Atzmo. It comes to tell us that the day after Shushan Purim is also in of itself to fast. But I'll die to Rabbi Yossi, Mabo Asar. But Rabbi Yossi has come to Asar. The Yossi holds any day which follows on a day, which is a Yom Tov, you know, not allowed to fast. Right? Says the Gemara continuing the question. Lesar Shalafonov, Lesley. The day before, he doesn't need a tas. The day before is Shushan Purim, right? Atzmos and Netes Vav, and it itself is also because it's the day after Shushan Purim. So what's it going to tell us? Again, so because it says, it's going to tell us in and of itself. Don't think that the only thing which is also on Tes Vav, Tes Zayin, on the day after Shushan Purim, is only to fast, because it's not a special holiday, it's just the first holiday. So if you had to tell me, no, it's bona fide, and you're actually not allowed to fast. Okay? Says the Gemara, B'Shuva Sarbari, on the 7th day of Adar, Kumanamamaya Pletas Afraya, the nations rose up against the remnants of the scribes in Dinas Belkis, in the country of Belkis, Bezatin, district Bezatin, Vlavaporkan, and there was a redemption. So that Rabbi Yossi, because Rabbi Chia is the name of Rabbi Meir. So therefore, our Mishnah is not a machlokas explicitly. It doesn't and then a stam, but rather it's a stam without a machlokas. Says more, no. It's a kavachomer. Mine on the Ashkach Rebbe Machlokas. If a Rebbe found a Machlokas because of a Shona Stam, and then he wrote again without attribution, how Lochik Stam looks like the Stam Mishnah. Aside the Ashkach Rebbe Masti Machlokas, in the place of Rebbe himself did not learn a Machlokas, Elachem Shon Machlokas, Rebbe Chil learned Machlokas in his Brises. The Rebbe Shona Stam and Rebbe taught it without attribution. Lo Koshkita Lochik Stam, certainly a Lochik Stam Mishnah. Now here's the Chazm Sofer speaks about that. He says, Rebbe knew all Brises. And if it's a machlokas and a brisa, and then Rebbe made a stam mishnah, logic dictates that it's the same thing like having a machlokas and stam internally in the mishnah, because Rebbe knew them. So therefore, we should pass in this case like the stam mishnah, which says you can even start a set on a Thursday, and you don't have to go back to Monday, right? So it says, Rabbi Chizkiah came, and Rabbi Yaakov bar Acha and Rabbi Shimon bar Abba Shem Elazar said, this again is a question, it's not an answer. Same idea we just said, even other people in the machlokas, and Rabbi learned without attribution. Halacha stam. Halacha should be like the stam. So why did Rabbi Yochanan paskin like Rabbi Yossi against the stam mishnah? So Rabbi Shmuel bar Yehuda b'Shem Rabbi Acha said, no! Hold that, Dahmer, that's what you said, that machlokas v'achakach. A machlokas, and afterwards the stam mishnah attribution passing like the stam. Hold that, Dahmer, kshein machlokas eitzel stam. That's only if there's a machlokas and then afterwards a stam. But not if the machlokas and stam come in the same mishnah. First is because their Tanakama is the stam, that attribution, and then immediately afterwards Rabbi Yossi comes along and says no. You always have to start on a Monday. So it says the Gemara. So you have machlokas one mishnah, a mishnah later you have a stam, or two mishnahs later. But here you have machlokas and stam in the same mishnah. That does not work. In that case, you don't pass like a stam mishnah. Okay? Lo b'dar, but im yesh machlokas eitzel stam, they're adjacent lo b'dar lochik stam. Okay, that's the end of the repetition. Now we go back to Purim. Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya, Rabbi Yehuda the Nasi, Shalach Rabbi Yoshi, Rabbi sent to Rabbi Yoshi the great Chada Atam, one leg of lamb, Chad Lagin, and one container of beer, let's say. So actually it says L'Chemar, of wine. Shalach, so Rabbi Nuna sent back a message, Yashikeach. V'amalei said, V'kiyam t'bana matanos avyonim, you're makayim matanos avyonim. The Chazar, then he sent Chazar Rabbi Yehuda went back with Shalach Echad Egel, he sent him a calf, the Chad Grav the Chamar, another measure of wine. Shalach Varmalei, this time Rabbi Yehuda sent the message, Yashakech, Kiyanta Bono Mishloach Monos Ishrei, did Shalach Monos now. It's interesting what the two things are. Shaitar says, so explains it very nice. It says Shalach Monos are the people who have food. You give them another money, you give them another portion, right? Matos of Yoinim, give the people who have no food. So Rabbi Nuna, the first time he had no food to eat. So when Rabbi Yehuda sent the food the first time, wasn't Shalach Monos, right? Because Shalach Monos is on top, icing a cake, so those behind him. The second time, after Yehuda already sent him enough for the Suda to eat, so now the second time around, he already has no need for it, then the second time around becomes Shalach Monos. So you have to order us specifically chronologically, Matanos Avyonim, and then Shalach Monos. Okay? Rutani, we learned. Mokum going to learn this like the Mashbiach, even though there's a different gear. So Mokum Nichnosim. You know, we said that all the villagers come to one specific city to read, right, earlier. So what about the people who live in the city where they're reading earlier? The city where they're reading are out for the villagers. So when the people of the city read, right? So Malcolm Sheniach Nasi, according to Yudalit, the people of the city still read on Yudalit. Says Rabbi Yossi boy. In B'Makom Sheniach Nasim, he said, he asked, isn't that obvious? If in the Makom, or the place where they come together, they would read earlier, like the Kfarim, Ma'ikro So Kolikar, then they wouldn't, then there wouldn't be any reading at all in Yudalit. So obviously, though, they have to wait themselves to Yudalit, so that people coming in for the market day, they can make a minion on Yudalit for your base.
It's similar to the people that on Yudalit read Megillah and then they went to...
Right, it's similar idea. It's the opposite idea, right, exactly, in the opposite direction. There's another Girsah which the Tzir Yerushalmi brings down, Tani Mokum She Misaknin, which if they're in danger, and the villagers are in danger by coming together and making public spectacles, so then they read it at home in Yudalit. We said it's obvious, right? In Makom Sakonin, don't read Megillah at all, because Sakonis Tavashas is not, you don't put yourself life in danger. Okay? Cross Megillah by the Rishon. They read in Megillah in the first time. When Yisab Rishon became a leap year, Cross about the Sheni, read again out of the Sheni. Aim it out of the Rishon out of the Sheni. There's no difference between out of the Rishon out of the Sheni, Ela Mikra Megillah Matos of Yonim, when you do Mikra Megillah Matos of Yonim. Masniso Kshi'iba Chaka Korah. So I'm just talking about when do we have to read again out of the Sheni? When first they made a leap month, and anyway you read it out of the Rishon. Now Chutzveh, you already knew there was going to be an out of the Sheni. You should have waited, so you have to read it over again. Of course, but if they sincerely read an out of the Rishon, but then only afterwards did they determine it's going to be a leap year, Lo B'Dah, that's not the case we're talking about. Okay? Says the Maramas Nisa Lormakin, our Mishnah seems not to say that. El Korus Megillah Ba'ad Rishon, B'Nisabra Shon, it says if you read the Megillah Ba'ad Rishon, and then afterwards the year becomes a leap year, nevertheless, Korus Ba'ad Hashem, make you read it out of the Sheni anyway, tough luck. Rabbi Shimon Levi said, Ksiv, it says, the Kaim es Yigeres Purim Azos. I'm tempted to stop here because this goes on to. Let's go a little bit further. You don't have to leave early, right? Right. So another 3 minutes. He says, to sustain this letter Purim. Why it's the second one? Mikan, this teaches us again, we're darshing Megillah Esther as if it was Chumash. Mikan Shem Koras Ba'ad Rishon, for the we learned he read out of Rishon Yisab Shona, and then the year became a leap year. Koras Ba'ad Sheni, reading out of the Sheni. Why? Because it says Shteitoch HaShenis. It says the second one, which means that whatever the two others, you always have to lay in the second other. Okay. Rabbi Yirmiyah and Rabbi Shem Rosh said, Masu Mordechai Bester. What did Mordechai has to do? They wrote a letter. They sent it to the Anshe Knesset HaGedolah. They said, Sheken Amr Lem, they said to them the following, are you going to accept these 2 days as a Yontif every year? We want you guys to accept you down as well as a Yontif. Sometimes the Anshe Knesset said, Lo Dahina Tzoros HaBosli. It's not enough we have Tzoros, the Goyim say, these Jews, they hate us, right? You want to remind everybody that we stuck it to Haman? Boy, are we going to be in trouble. Why are you trying to make us so much trouble? We have enough trouble as is with the Goyim, right? So it says the Gemara, they wrote him again. And that's how he learns. The Kaim Lam is Hashenis, to sustain the second letter, because the first letter Mordechai said didn't work. Maya Kosabo, what is in red Amalim, they said, if that's what you're afraid of, the Goyim, what can you do? Tough. It's already written and sealed in the archives that we should be successful. Follow our plan. Well, actually, that's not what it is. I'm sorry, it's already written in the archives about Haman, meaning it's written in the Persian archives. So you're not going to generate any animosity, because anyway the Persians know about it. They don't need you to figure out about it. And that's what it says. The happenings of the Megillah are written in Sefer Divrei Yomim, the history of the Malchei Modai Poras, kings of Media and Persia. Sure, now Shem Anderson said, 85 elders. They don't have the 120 in the Yerushalmi for but 85 elders. And for among them 30 some odd Nevi'im. They're upset about this. Papa Zayin Ralph. They said, how can we add a day? That's it. So Moshe said, Navi said that nobody else can add anything. So Mordechai and Esther want to add something. What are we going to do about it? Okay, tune in next week and we'll find out what we do about it.
Yerushalmi. This is in Yom Yom.
Well, Yom Yerushalayim. Listen to Yom Yerushalayim.
What
was it the Yom Ha'atzmaut? Oh, you mean because they want to add on? No. Oh, in the Chanami, that's Taka. It happens to be very apropos Gemara because the Taka would not add on a holiday unless they had a pasuk. That's why it's a big shiur of adding on holidays in Judaism because here they need a pasuk. Right, we're speaking about it past, so that's what they're going to get into next week. 1 second, let me just write this down.
I don't recall that in